Hi, this is Bruce Buffer, your voice of the Octagon, and you're listening to MMA Mental.
Welcome to this week's MMA Victor Roundtable. Once again, me, Brooks, and Luke are here to break down the UFC on Fuel TV 10. So let me just introduce the people that are with me today. So first of all, we've got Brooks Bailey. Brooks, how are you?
I'm doing good, Ray.
Good. And then we've also got UFC middleweight and Tough 17 standout Luke Barnett. Luke, how are you, mate?
Life's treating me well, mate. I'm all good.
Okay, right. We'll jump straight in. Obviously, we were here before to predict the UFC 160 card. We predicted the main card. We are going to keep a running total so we can see who's doing the best out of the three panellists. So on the first event, me and Brooks scored 4 and Luke scored 2. So we'll keep that running total going. And we'll see how that goes throughout over the next couple of events and for as long as we're able to keep this up. So we're going to start with UFC on Fuel TV 10. We're going to cover the main card. And the first fight on the main card is going to be Tough Brazil winner Honey Jason. And he's going to be facing Tough Smashes contestant and one of the standout guys from the show, in my opinion, Mike the Warrior Wilkinson. Now, this is obviously a big fight for Mike. I've spoke with Mike a few times on my show. He's a guy that I've got a lot of time and a lot of respect for. I think he's going to do really, really well in the UFC. He fought at lightweight on Tough, but he's naturally a featherweight, so he's dropped down to his weight. This is a big fight for him because he's fighting in Brazil against a Tough winner. But we've seen some of the Tough Smashers guys. They've done quite well against other Tough contestants. We've seen Robert Whittaker recently knock out Colton Smith, and not a lot of people give him a chance in that fight. So I'm definitely siding with Mike Wilkinson here. I think it's going to be a really back and forth, exciting fight. And I've got Wilkinson winning an exciting unanimous decision. Luke, what are your views on this fight?
I didn't watch much of Tough Brazil. I've not been keeping up with it, but I watched the Smashes. And Wilkinson, he can keep a high pace and he's a really tough guy. The only thing I'd say is fighting a Brazilian in Brazil, is never an easy feat. So, I think Brazil's the biggest home advantage you can get for a Brazilian because the atmosphere is completely different and it's a really, really tough feat. But yeah, I'm gonna say Wilkinson's gonna take it on the decision as well. I think he's got the ability to keep the fight at a really, really high pace and wear his opponent down and take the decision.
Brooks, what are your views on the fight?
I think both of these guys have a bright future ahead. They're both fairly new into the UFC. They're both exciting fighters. I'm gonna have to go the other way of you guys though, and I'm gonna pick Hani to win this. I think as well as Mike Wilkinson can keep a great pace, I think Hani can also keep that same great pace. There's not much I think that really separates these two as far as skill wise, but you're going to have to look at the small things when it comes down to it. And, like Luke was saying, they're fighting in Brazil. And, I think just the hometown advantage is going to come into play in this fight. They're both got good striking, both good, good on the ground. I just think that, like I said, just the small things are going to come into play here. I think Hani's going to end up going to probably, I'm actually going to say he's probably going to get a finish here. He's probably going to get a TKO.
Okay, so we've got the two Brits going for Mike Wilkinson and our American friend siding with Honey Jason. We'll move on to the next fight, a welterweight fight between one of the standouts really of the welterweight division. One of the guys really rising fast, I think, Eric Silva, and he's facing Jason High, who I believe is one of the guys coming over from Strikeforce. I've got to admit, I'm a huge fan of Silva. I thought his fight with John Fitch was a really, really good fight. And even though he lost that fight, he showed so much skill and heart in that fight because he was clearly tired in the later rounds. And he was so close to finishing John Fitch, which was really impressive. So I think this is a fight for Silva to get back on track and pick up an impressive win. I think he'll get the stoppage. He is a finisher. He's one of those guys that can either knock out or submit. But I imagine High's going to want to grapple with Silva. And I think Silva's jiu-jitsu will win through. I'm going to go for Silva to get maybe a second round submission. Luke, what are your thoughts on this fight?
I believe this fight was originally supposed to be John Hathaway. John Hathaway against Eric Silva. And John Hathaway unfortunately had to pull out because of an illness. And now, I mean, Eric Silva, like you said, he's definitely a standout, and he's someone who's appeared, and then he's impressed a lot of people, including myself. You know, he's a scary guy to fight, very, very athletic, and looks for the finish from the very beginning of the fight. Jason High, obviously coming up from Strikeforce, he's got more experience, but the Fitch fight, like you mentioned, really showed where Eric Silva can go, and I'm sure he learned a lot from fighting a man like Fitch. I just don't see Eric Silva getting beat. I think until he steps up to the top 5, top 10 guys in the division, he's going to run through everyone. So, you know, I believe it'll be a first round finish. I think it'll be a knockout or a TKO. I think the guys are going to try and engage. High's going to try and get hold of him. Eric's going to brush him off and just finish him. To be honest, he's a very, very explosive, talented guy, and it's going to be a great fight, I think.
Brooks, what are your views on the fight?
Yeah, I'm also going to go with Eric Silva in this. I think this guy is phenomenal. He's probably a future title contender. He's just all around. He's got great skills. Jason High, great wrestler. You know, he's on a bit of a winning streak here, coming back into the UFC since his loss to Charlie Brenneman back at UFC Fight Night when he basically got out-wrestled by another wrestler and Brenneman. But, I mean, don't get me wrong, that'll be probably High's only hope here is to try to wrestle Silva for the duration of the fight when, you know, we seen Silva go against John Fitch, and that's pretty much exactly what happened to him in that fight too. So, I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility, but you know, I definitely don't think that Jason High is on the level of a John Fitch. But you know, I definitely agree with you guys. I think that Silva's going to come in. He's gonna turn it on real quick. He's going to get a first round stoppage TKO.
Okay, we've got 3 people there all going for Eric Silva. I think Eric Silva's probably going to be a big favourite going into that fight. Then we move on to a middleweight bout, which is between another tough Brazil contestant who was one of the standouts on the show, Daniel Sarafian. I think a lot was expected of him, and I think he was expected to win the show, and of course he ended up pulling out of injury, and that's why he wasn't in the final, even though he earned his way to the final. And he's facing a UFC newcomer, Eddie Mendez. I've got to admit, I don't know a lot about Eddie Mendez. I've looked over his record. Daniel Sarafian's coming off a fight of the night loss to CB Dollaway. Of course, this is Luke's division as well. Sarafian looked pretty good in that fight, and I thought it was a really back and forth fight. He did lose, but it was very close. I mean, it was a split decision. I think this is a fight for Sarafian to get back on track. Most of his wins he's got by submission, but on The Ultimate Fighter he was quite a good striker, and he was finishing quite a lot of guys with striking. So I'm going to go with the guy I remember from Ultimate Fighter. I'm going to go with Sarafian to pick up an impressive TKO victory because he's very explosive. Maybe I'm going to pick first round. Luke, what are your views on this middleweight bout?
Yeah, like you said, obviously these guys, they're not only my division, but they're my sort of place in the rankings. Obviously, I'm very new to the UFC. Came through the Ultimate Fighter myself, and these guys, or one of these guys, is coming from it as well. It's quite a tough fight to decide because when you look at the Brazilian, he comes forward with heavy hands, but he really is a ground fighter. You know, he's looking to get the bite to the ground and look for a submission. And I think like with this fight, it comes down to it's a big advantage for him to be in Brazil. You know, sort of Sarafian, I can't really say his name, probably always say it wrong. Impressed me on what I've seen of him on the Ultimate Fighter, and I have looked into him because I think he's going to win this fight, and he could be a future opponent of mine. You know, after this fight happens, we've also got 2 other middleweights on the card fighting. Another Brazilian is fighting Carlos Mola, and they're, you know, it's Maglish. I can't remember his first name, Chow or something Maglish, and they're both in my realm as well. You know, and I just feel with MMA being so big in Brazil now, I think they're really looking to pump the Brazilians up and get them to do well. And like you said, I think it's a fight for him to get back on winning ways and for them to raise another star, you know, a Brazilian star in the middleweight division. So I'm going to go, I don't know how it's going to happen. I'm going to go probably submission in the second round, but I'm going to go for Sarafian, or however you say his name.
Brooks, what are your views on the fight?
Yeah, I completely agree with both of you guys here, and with exactly what Luke was saying. I believe that basically Mendes is being brought in as a sacrificial lamb here to Sarafian in Brazil. I've seen a little video on Mendes. Just to be completely honest, I'm not sure if he's UFC caliber. His record looks great, but it's all his wins are against a lot of lower level competition. Sarafian's just a good all around fighter. He's got dangerous striking, and obviously his ground game is up to par. I don't think Mendes is going to last long. I believe this is probably going to end in the first round by a submission from Sarafian. Like I said, I just think Mendes is being brought in to be the sacrificial lamb here in Brazil.
Okay, all three of us there siding the way of Daniel Sarafian. Again, I think he's a heavy favourite going into this fight. The next fight's very interesting because we've got a guy who's been a standout at the UFC light heavyweight, but he had a few controversies recently with a few failed drug tests and not submitting human urine, which is always not a good idea. And then he's facing one of the Strikeforce standouts, he's beat a lot of competition, but he's never really beat top competition apart from King Mo. So we've got Thiago Silva versus Rafael Cavalcanti. Again, two Brazilians. I really think that Silva needs to get back on track now. I mean, he's had some iffy moments in the UFC, obviously with what I said before about the drug testing. But when he's on it, he's very good. He's such an explosive striker. We've seen him knock some really tough people out. I think he gets back to winning ways here. He'll keep the fight standing, and I think he'll get a knockout over Cavalcanti because he's very aggressive, and I think that'll do him well. I see Thiago Silva. I'll go round two. It's always hard to predict round, but I'll go round two. Round two knockout against Cavalcanti. Luke, what are your thoughts on the fight?
I mean, I was there for, like you said, Thiago Silva fought Alexander Gustafsson in Sweden. I was there for that fight, and I can't remember him fighting since, to be honest. I don't know if he has. I haven't kept up. I cannot remember. And that's, a long time to be away, if he has been, and out of the limelight. He's not really been in the limelight. He's had some drug issues and the rest of it. And I'm just not sure if he's going to be up to par in this fight. Cavalcante, again, it's hard to say these guys' names, but Cavalcante's a bit more on a roll, and I just feel like we talk about sacrificial lambs, and I think Thiago Silva's a name that they're putting out there for Cavalcante to take out, and I think he'll win the fight. I'm going to go for a TKO, probably ground and pound, in this fight. So that's my decision.
Yeah, what you say about Silva is right. He has fought once since then, but it was controversial because he faced Stanislav Nedkov and he won with a third round submission, but then he failed a drugs test for marijuana and it was a no contest. So
I do remember that. Yeah, that was. So that's I just think there's going to be a lot of doubt in his mind, and if he really wants to continue doing this, and he's been in the sport a very long time. It's not like he's an up and comer and a new guy in the sport. And with all the controversy and everything else surrounding him, it does make fighting a lot harder for you. And I just think Cavalcante is going to come in and end that dream for him, to be honest.
Brooks, what are your views on the fight?
Yeah, this is honestly, for me, the toughest fight to pick on the card. I mean, they're both pretty good strikers, both pretty good on the ground. I mean, this is like the battle of the guys who fail their drug test, I guess. I don't know. It's just so hard to call because they've had their ups and they've had their downs, both of them. Man, it's just going to come down to, I think it's going to be a back and forth battle. I think it's going to come down to, who lands bigger first. I mean, we've seen, in the Nedkov fight with Silva, we've seen, Nedkov rock Silva pretty bad. And, luckily he recovered and was able to, come back even though the decision got overturned. It's just, man, this is such a tough fight to call. Honestly, I'm gonna go with Thiago Silva. He's got more experience in the UFC, I know Calvacante's got a lot of experience in the big shows too over in Strikeforce, but I think it's a whole nother world over here in the UFC, as we've heard from, some of the new Strikeforce acquisitions coming over. They said, that it was a whole nother world. So, I think Thiago's going to be a little bit more hungry coming into this fight with all the controversy surrounding him, like you guys have mentioned. I think that these guys are both going to be throwing big. I just think that I think Thiago's going to end up getting the KO in either round 2 or round 3.
Right, in a fight that I think we all found difficult to pick, 2 of us have gone for Thiago Silva, with Luke going for Cavalcanti. Okay, we move on to the co-main event, which is the Tough Brazil Finale 2. We've got William Macario versus Leonardo Santos. Worth noting on this fight that William Macario made the final. He had a really good run on the show. He won his last 2 fights by knockout. I haven't had a chance to watch the last episode yet, but he has. To me, in my opinion, he was the standout guy on the show. Leonardo Santos actually made it to the semis and then lost to the Argentinian guy in the house, whose name just skipped my mind now. He actually lost to him. Let's see, we've got his name yet? No. Yeah, he lost to him. But because he broke his hand, he's had to pull out, so he's facing. That's why Leonardo's in the finals. He's coming as a replacement. Going on the show, William Macario, he reminded me of Melvin Gillard. He's very athletic. He's got excellent takedown defense, and his striking is just brutal. The knockout in the quarterfinal against a guy, funny enough, called Thiago Alves was brutal. He had him running away, and he just knocked him out cold. He just couldn't take any more. I'll be shocked if Macario don't win this finale, because he was by far the best guy in the house. So I'm going to pick round 1 knockout for William Macario. Luke, what are your views on this fight?
I haven't watched a single episode of Tough Brazil, which, it's obviously not cool. I haven't got a clue about either of these guys. I don't know a single thing about them. So from the description you gave me, I'm going to go for the underdog, and I'm going to go for Leonardo rather than go for the other guy, because, I have no idea. I might as well flip a coin on this one.
I love your honesty, Luke. Brooks, what are your views on the fight?
I'm going to go with Macario also. Just based off the momentum he's got coming in, off the show. Like you said, Ray, he was obviously the best guy there. Santos actually lost. He's got a second chance here since due to the injury. But Santos is not a slouch. He comes from a great camp, Nova União. He's got a lot of experience. His first professional fight was back in 2002. He's fought some big names, Gomi, Yokota. He's fought some UFC vets, and he's had some success against them. But just based off the momentum he's got coming in off the show, you got to go with Macario.
Okay, so we've got 2 guys siding with Macario, me and Brooke, and Luke flipping a coin and landing on the underdog at Santos, who, as Brooks has got a lot of experience. We move on to the main event, which is a massive heavyweight bout, especially in Brazilian MMA. I believe that there's a chance that the winner of this is going to fight for the title. I'm sure I've heard that being shouted about. We've got Big Nog, Antonio Rodrigo Noguiera, of course, a true MMA veteran, a Pride veteran, a Pride standout, former Pride heavyweight champion, former UFC heavyweight champion, and he's facing another Pride standout, Fabricio Werdum, who was, of course, one of the first guys to end the Fedor myth, I suppose, with the triangle choke in like 30 seconds. I think as well, these 2 have fought before. I'm sure these 2 fought. I'm going to check now, but I'm sure these 2 faced off in Pride back in the day. Let me see if that's right. Yeah, they did. In 2006, with Nogueira winning a very exciting decision. And the way I look at this fight, if this fight was to happen 7 years ago, like it did, I'd be picking Nogueira all day. Nogueira was well in his prime then. Was easily one of the best heavyweights in the whole of mixed martial arts. But I just feel Nogueira, as good as he is, and he's still a top fighter, he's not at his best anymore. He's been in lots of wars, and it seems to have taken its toll on his body. And I just think this is Werdum's time. Werdum's looked good. He looked very good against Roy Nelson, and we've seen what Roy Nelson's been doing lately. I don't think Werdum will stop Nogueira because Nogueira's as tough as they come. But I think he'll be able to out-grapple him for 15 minutes and he'll win. It'll be back and forth, but I think he'll get the best of the exchanges, and I think Werdum will win an exciting decision. I don't know if this is a 5-round fight or not, but even if it is, I'm still going to go for Werdum to win a decision. Luke, what's your views on this heavyweight bout?
I believe it's 3 rounds rather than 5 rounds. I believe that's just say the title fights, but I believe that's, I'm not 100% sure. But I'm going for Werdum all day as well. The Nogueira brothers, I just feel in general, Big Nog and Little Nog, just like you said, I think they're still fantastic athletes, and they're both, they've been around a long time, but I feel like their time has passed, and I think Werdum's a really, really tough opponent for Nogueira on the grappling side of things. I think, he competes a lot higher, like a much higher level of jiu-jitsu than Nogueira. Nogueira obviously is a great jiu-jitsu guy, but he doesn't compete at the highest level as much as Werdum does. He competes in the ADCCs, and he's always active, always competing, and he's really, really tough in the world of jiu-jitsu. And I think that's going to give him an edge. I don't think he'll get a finish, and I agree. I think it'll be a decision for Werdum.
Brooks, what are your views on this heavyweight fight?
I think Nogueira, he's got a lot of miles on him. He's taken a lot of punishment throughout his career, and I think it's taken his toll on him. He's slowed down a bit. He's looked pretty decent, his last few fights, but he hasn't been fighting, people on the level of Werdum. Obviously, like you said, Ray, they fought before, but that was back in the Pride days, and Nogueira was definitely in a lot better shape back then, and he won that fight. But I think that he's probably on the decline right now. He's going to be able to beat, the guys he's been beaten, but when it comes to the upper echelon, that he's going to have a little bit more trouble with them. Werdum, I think his grappling is better. I think that his striking has just improved leaps and bounds over the years. I mean, his Muay Thai has just gotten nasty. I remember, when he was fighting Roy Nelson, just knees in his eyes, and I mean, I couldn't believe Roy was still standing, but that's Roy Nelson. But I think Werdum, from what I understand, it's a 5-round fight. I mean, I could be wrong. I'm not sure, but doesn't matter. Regardless to me, I'm picking Werdum to get a finish here. I don't think Nogueira's always been known for having a great chin, but I don't think it's what it used to be. I think Verdum's going to get him at some point in that clinch, and I think he's going to hit him with some knees, and I think Nogueira's just gonna crumble. I think Werdum's going to get the knockout in round 2.
Okay, so on the main event, all three of us sided with Werdum. Me and Luke going for a decision, with Brooks picking Werdum to win by knockout. That is the UFC on Fuel TV 10 card. If you think you can do better than me, Brooks, and UFC middleweight Luke, go to MMA Victor and prove it. Thank you for listening.